Hello to everyone and welcome on the YouTube channel School for All. So if you're discovering this channel through this video, I'm called Paula Eve, a computer science and ICT teacher. So today we are going to answer June 2024 Computer Science Advanced Level Paper 3. Good. So generally the paper is made up of two parts. So there is section A for database and there is section B for programming. Section B is generally programming. Good. So this is the second video I'm doing concerning the year 2024 of paper 3 Computer Science Advanced Level. So concerning the first video, we answered section B, the programming part. So the solution is available. So when you're on YouTube, you search for School for All GCE. Good. So from here now you can search for the video. So if you go through these are the different videos here. Okay, so you see A level June 24 section B programming. So this is the video for the programming part. Good. Clearly explained. So go through the video. If you have any problem, just leave a comment and I will reply to you. Now, but before we start answering this question, I want us to go through a small summary note. So my advice to students before starting with this video, make sure at least you have the base concerning database. If this is your first time of doing database, I think move back to the YouTube channel. At the level of the YouTube channel, go to playlist. You will see playlist. Now at the level of playlist, you just check, you see a database. Good. You see, so this is a full course concerning database of about 6 videos. So and yes, practical, only practical, take note. Good. Now, so before we start with this year 2024, I want us to go through some keyword, or let me say some key terms, very important when we are working on database. Good. So the first thing here is database. You need to know what's a database. So a database is an organized collection of data stored in a computer. Good. Generally, we talk about organized collection. Database generally use what we call table. So this is how we organize data. Like everybody know what's a table. A table is made up of columns, rows, and so on and so forth. Imagine that you have data about a student. How are you going to organize that? You can have a table called student where you have a column just for the name, a column just for the age, column just for, I don't know, class or something like that, subject, and so on and so forth. Good. So this is how we organize data so that it becomes very easy for us to access the data, modify the data, or do any operation on the data. So the definition of database is very easy. Now the next thing, relational database. Good. So generally we have two categories of database. We have flat file database and relational database. So in simple words, flat file database, just a database with a single table, meaning you are storing everything using a single table, and we have so many disadvantages with that type of database. Good. So I'm not going to detail everything here because I have notes on that. So if you have any worry with that, just text directly in the comment section and I will reply to you. So what's a relational database? A relational database is a type of database that stores data in tables and links them using relationship keys. Good. So what happened here, this is different from flat file database. Now here with this type of database, we have multiple tables and they are linked using what we call keys. So we are going to study exactly which type of key is used to connect the different table. And concerning database, this is what we'll be using. So generally we are not working with flat file, but we are working with a relational database. So take note of that. So I think the definition here is very clear. So relational database, multiple table links together using keys. Now the next thing, database management system, very important. So generally for us to manipulate a database, we need a particular software that will help us to do so. So a database management system is a software used to create, manage, and control access to a database. So example, actually we are working on practical. So the software that we're going to manipulate together is called Microsoft Access. Good. So Microsoft Access is just an example of a database management system. We have so many examples, so take note. Good. So now the next thing is primary key. Very important. So a primary key is a field or a combination of fields that uniquely identify each record in a table. Now you know database is made up of tables. So each table has what we call a primary key. So a primary key can be a single field of your table. When you talk about field, you are talking about a column. So take note, either a single field or multiple fields combined together that can be used to uniquely identify records in your table. So if you have any worry with that, make sure you ask your question. Foreign key. So in simple words, a foreign key is just a field that links one table to another table. So it's very important. You cannot be working with a relational database and you don't talk about foreign key. Imagine that you have two tables, a table called student and a table called, let us say, subject. Okay. Now we know very well that a table is made up of a primary key. So I can have my primary key here. Let us say student number 1, 2, 3. So this primary key is used to uniquely identify each record. Good. Now let us say the record of the student, we have maybe the name of the student and maybe the age of the student. Now subject, the same thing. There is also a primary key used to identify subject uniquely. Good. So yeah, I can have name of subject, let us say math, English, and French. Imagine that I want to know the subject offered by student number 1. In this case, the table student must have a foreign key, and the foreign key of this table should be the primary key of another table. Good. So yeah, I'm going to have my foreign key here in such a way that if, let us say, student number 1, I level of the foreign key, I'm having 3. This 3 is just linked to the primary key of the table subject, so that from there I'm able to see that, okay, student number 1 is offering what? French, and so on and so forth. So this is the concept of foreign key. So the foreign key of a table should be the primary key of another table, and the use of that foreign key is just to link the two tables together, as easy as that. So if you have a question, make sure you ask. Now the next thing is data type in database. Very important. So a data type simply represents the kind of data a column can store. Imagine I have a column names. So what's the type of data a column name can store? So here we are thinking about what text, right? Good, because name of student are generally made up of letters and the rest. So in programming we call that strings. Good, but here now in database, the data type have particular keywords. Example, now if I want to collect the name of student, let us say text, you see the data type here is varchar, in bracket the size in fact of the name you are trying to collect, or let me say the size of the text. Take note of that. Good. So varchar generally is having bracket a particular value inside. We represent the size. So varchar of 5, let us say is the data type of maybe names. It simply means that you are collecting a name of maximum 4 characters. You see. Good. Now int here is for integers. Date is when you are collecting a date. Let us say your table is having a column called date. Good. So generally in some application you realize that the field used to collect date, you see a small icon calendar, where when you click there you are able to select the date without fully typing the date manually. So it's simply because for that field you have precised the data type date. So the field in fact is used to input a date. That is why you have these opportunities of seeing the icon where you can click and select the date. Now for decimal number you have float and double. So I've explained the difference between the two, but generally just use float, there's no problem. So in my previous video I've explained it. Even in programming videos I'm explaining this. So boolean is when you're having a variable that can store only 2 values, either 0 or 1, true or false, yes or no, and so on and so forth. So good, take note of this because we'll be using that in fact for the question. Now the next thing is SQL. Very important for computer science students. There is no practical exam you write without writing an SQL code. Impossible. Take note of that. Good. Now so this video is very important. So those that will be passing through this tutorial, the tutorial number 6 is talking about SQL, meaning that I'm showing everything you need to know on SQL, and we are doing the practical. So we are testing everything I'm saying in the video. So it's very important. So if you don't have knowledge on SQL or you still have problem with SQL, please come and look this video. Very important. It's tutorial number 6. So if I click there, let me just break. Okay, yeah, tutorial number 6, part 6, all you need to know about SQL query. You see, 25 minutes. So I'm showing everything you need to know here. So we continue. But good. So for this summarized note, I'm just showing some key things in fact. But here I'm not testing. You see, I'm just writing. This is just a document base. You want to test it and see how it works with Microsoft Access, make sure you go through the video on SQL. Good. Now, so the first command here, which is very important, is how to create a database. So the keyword is very clear. The instruction is clear. You just write create database, then the name of the database, and the instruction should end with a semicolon. Take note. How to create a table. Very easy too. So we know very well that a table is made up of columns. So when you are creating your table, you should be giving the name of the different columns. That's why you see the syntax there is create table, Then you give the name of the table, you open bracket, you start listing the different column of your table, or let me say you start listing the different attribute of your table, because this column we also call them attribute, or we also call them properties. In fact, go to property of a table, or you see the attribute of a table. Like here, the table student is having as attribute what? Student ID. So after writing the name of the attribute, small space, you give the data type. Don't forget. So student ID, in this case, the data type, just choose anything in random. It can also be an integer. So generally, the question that you have will precise, in fact, the data type you'll be using. So I've used varchar, meaning it's a text, and the size 10. Now, after the data type, generally what follow is a condition. Now, the condition here is this field should be primary key. So for you to make this field to be a primary key, you write the keyword primary key as you are seeing here. Then you put comma. So never forget that all the different attributes in your table should be separated with commas when you're writing SQL code. Good. So you're saying I'm done with the first attribute. The second attribute is what? Name. So name, data type, varchar 50. So the condition here is not null. So not null here simply means that when you be filling data on your table, no cell under the field name can be empty. You see, you must fill everything. So it's not possible to jump a line without entering a name. It's not possible. You see. Good. But if I remove this condition of not null, I just put comma. It simply means that when you are filling your table, yeah, the field can be empty. It's going to the software will accept that. So the next comma, age. So take note, when you read the last attribute, no need to add again a comma there. Like here, the last attribute of my table is age. So you see there's no comma. After doing that, you close the parentheses to end with semicolon. Never forget this. Now, the small n being select. So generally, you will see SQL code with the keyword select. So when you see something as select, never forget this, please. Select here simply means that you are trying to display some columns of your table. So select is to display column of table. Take note. Now let us start. Example. Let us say I want to select all the data of my table. Good. So I'm going to say select star from student. Select star from student. This star simply means that select all the different column and display all what is under the column. See, good. But let us say you want to filter it. Filter simply means, imagine something like this. Look at something. Let us say I'm having a table with name. Let us say yes, IG, yes, maybe age. Good. So the select star from the table student, this will be the student, will display the column ID, the column name, and the column age. But imagine I just want to display the column name without displaying the other column. In this case, how we doing it? Select name, then you precise in fact the name of the column you want to display before you add from table. Are we there? Good. Now you can precise a condition. To precise a condition, you just add the keyword where age is less than 18. It simply means that with all the different fields that you'll be having here, imagine that your age is maybe 17, 18, 16. It simply means that when you execute this instruction, what happens here is only this row and this row will be displayed, because these are the two rows with age less than 15. Means that the name found here will be displayed. Let us say here is John, here is Mary, and here is, I don't know, Jean. You see, only John and Jean will be displayed, not Mary, because of the age. So generally, you can add condition like that. So take note of this. Now, how to insert data in a table? Very, very important. They are always asking questions on such thing. To do it is very easy. The instruction is insert into. So don't forget the keyword insert into. Then what follows the name of the table. So if you want to insert something in the table student, you just write insert into student. Now you open your parentheses. You list the different attributes of your table. So let us say I'm having a table. This is my table here. So to insert data in this table, what's happening is just type insert into, you give the name of the table, you open your parenthesis, you list your different attributes. So either you list them in order or you don't list them in order, there's no problem. Like you have decided to list them in order, like student ID, name, age. You close the bracket, then you go to the next line, you write values in bracket, like you open parenthesis, you start giving the different values. Good. Taking into consideration the data type, because when you were creating this table, it's clear that you have precise the data type of each of them. So generally, this is how we insert a text, by putting into single quote. I hope you are seeing the single quote before you write your text. You put comma, the next data is what? Name. Name also of varchar, meaning text. That's why you see I'm putting single quote before putting what? The value, you see. Now the next is what? Age. Age was integer, so that's why you just write the integer directly without putting any code. Then you close, you put your semicolon. Very, very important. Now what you're supposed to know here is that this part here is not obligatory, it's optional. is optional. But the question is, when is this optional? So take note. So generally, this first part here, this bracket that you are seeing here, is optional when you are inserting data following the order of the attribute in your table. Like here, the order is what? Student ID, name, age. So if you think that you'll be inserting by following this order, no need to precise this. But imagine that you want to insert by, you start by putting by the name John. After that, you put the age. After that, you put the student ID here. Good. You are seeing that here it's not following the order of the table. The table normally the first attribute is student ID, but you are putting John. So in this case now it's obligatory to precise this first bracket. Now in this first bracket you are not going to write it the same way as you are seeing this. No. Here you are the first one is what? Name. So you mean that in your bracket you write here name, comma. The next is who? Age. The next is who? Student ID. So you write student ID at the end. So if you want to change the order in which you are inserting your data, then this bracket becomes very important, so that when you be inserting the data, there is no error. So take note of this. So in my videos concerning SQL, I'm showing all these things. Good. So we are testing everything together. So it's very important to have this in mind. Good. So if you have any question here, make sure you precise in the comment section. I don't want to waste time on this. Now update. So update generally used to modify a data in your table. So to retain this instruction in mind, just put in mind that the command update is always followed by set, like update set. So update, you give the name of the table. Now set, you give the attribute that you want to change its value. Like here I want to change maybe the age to 18 to 19. Good. But when you just say set age to 19, it's not sufficient. You need to precise exactly which row, because this is my table here, you see. Good. So let us say here you have different data. Let us say I'm having student number 1, student number 2. So here is John, here is Mary. Here the age was 20, here was maybe 25. Good. So you're seeing that if you want to change maybe the age of John from 20 to 19, what happened? You say update. Let me just move this. So what happened here? You say update, you give the name of the table where you want to make your update. Set, the keyword is set. Age. And remember that you can write all these things on a single line, but it's very important to write it on separate lines so that your instruction should be clear, so that you are seeing very well what you are doing. So set age equals to what? 19. The 19 is the new value I want to place here. You see, good. But now how to identify exactly this row? So you need now a condition where you say where student ID is equals to what? SO1. So the student is SO1, SO2. Good. Are we there? And generally, when you are taking your condition, make sure you use what? The primary key, the data of the primary key, so that you are sure that you identify exactly the row you need to modify the value. So I think this is okay. So never forget this. All these things, I'm doing that in the video. So now how to delete a data? So there we talk about data, we are talking about a row in your table. So it's very easy. So delete from, you give the name of the table where student ID equals to, we just precise the student ID, and it's going to delete the row. So this is concerning delete. Now there's another command we call drop. So drop here now is to delete the whole table. So because we asked that in the exam, I remember this 1 year paper 2, they asked what the difference between delete and drop. So delete is used to remove a single row from a table. Drop is used to delete the whole table. And how to do it? You just say drop table, you give the name of the table, you end with semicolon, and everything is perfect. So take note of that, very, very important. So we are going to use that to answer our past question. Now, the next thing here, which is very important, ER diagram, entity relationship diagram. So the role of this is very clear. So entity relationship diagram is used to represent the structure of a database and the relationship between the tables of that database. So that's the role, in fact, of ER diagram, to represent the general structure. Like, because you know all the different applications that we are using today have database. Example, Facebook is having a database. That is why you are able to post picture online, you are able to comment, you are able to create an account. All this data that you are sending, in fact, are being stored in a database. Good. So that database having a particular structure. Example, the table where your name is stored is not the same table maybe where there are different posts. The post image you are sending are being stored. No, we have different tables for that. So, and they are both related together in such a way that for one person we are able to know exactly the different post he did on the platform, things like that. So that is why generally before building a software, there is a part that we call design of a database. So the design of a database, so there is one chapter we call system or software development life cycle. So for computer science, they say software development life cycle. For ICT, they are doing the system development life cycle. So under software development life cycle, there is a design phase, and one thing people are doing at the level of the design phase is to design the database of the software. And you can design the database by drawing things like ER diagram, because the ER diagram shows us the general structure of the database, the different tables included in our database, and the relationship between these tables. So take note of that. Good. Now, and it's not only ER diagram that can be used to do so. We have different type of diagram that can be used to show the general structure of the database. But for advanced level, you are just concentrating on ER diagram. When you go to university, you'll be seeing other things. Now, so what are some of the components of an ER diagram? I've talked about tables. So these tables are generally called entity. So these are the words we use generally, entity. So an entity is just a table in a database. Good. So and generally when you're drawing your ER diagram, entities are represented using rectangle, you see. So you draw your rectangle and you give the name of your entity. So entity is a table. I mean, like if you have a table called student, draw a rectangle, you write student in, full stop. Now, the attributes here, so the attributes here are the columns of your table, and generally they are indicated using ovals. Are you seeing that? Now, when you indicate using oval, you link it to your rectangle, as you are seeing from this example. Good. Now, you realize that there is one oval here with an attribute being underlined. So, generally, when you see an attribute underlined in the oval, it simply means that attribute represents the primary key of the table in question. So take note. Now the next thing, relationship. So relationship between tables are indicated using what we call a diamond. So take note, a diamond. Good, like this. I think you are seeing this example. This is a diamond. These two lines relating a table entity 1 and entity 2. Take note of that. Now the next thing is cardinality. Good. When we talk about cardinality now is helping us to interpret our database. Example, we have different type of cardinality. You have 1-to-1, 1-to-many, many-to-many, and so on and so forth. So I've not detailed it here simply because I have notes on that. So everything is available on the platform School for All. So take note of that. Now, so this is just a small example here of cardinality. Now, how to interpret cardinality on an ER diagram is very important. Now, so generally cardinality are represented using figures. Either for 1 you just write 1, for many you write n. In some textbook you will say infinity. So infinity is similar to n, so don't worry. So now how to interpret is very easy. Like this ER diagram here is clear. So where you are seeing infinity can be n, take note. So generally you are even using n for advanced level. Now, so here to interpret is very easy. Here you will say one doctor can consult many patients. Good. So this is how you read it. In fact, take note. So on your source table, you just consider a single person. Then after the symbol of the relationship, you try to see the value here. So from this value here is representing a number in the other table. Good. So one doctor can consult n here means many patients. Good. Now if you want to interpret on the other side, what happened here is what? One patient. So when your source table, always consider 1. Never forget that. So on the other side, what's happening? You are seeing that one patient can be consoled only by, you look this value, by one doctor. Take note. So you are seeing that when I'm moving from left to right, is 1 to many. And when you are moving from right to left is what? Is 1 to 1 to 1. So now from here you can just do multiplication. So 1 times 1 on this side is what? Is 1. N times 1 here on this side is what? Is n. So it's actually a relationship, or the cardinality of this relationship is what? Is 1 to many. So this is how we do it generally. Good. And I'm going to show you how to interpret this thing of cardinality. Very, very important. Now, before we go there, let me just show you something. So there is also what we call relational representation of a database. Relational representation. Now the relational representation simply means we are not drawing table with columns to represent database, no, drawing ER diagram like this to represent database, no. But we are representing database just in a textual form. Example, let us say I want to represent the table doctor. Good. Or let us say I want to represent these two tables here from this ER diagram. How to do it? Okay. So for example, the table there is what? Doctor. So you just write doctor. You open your bracket and you list your different attributes. So the first attribute is what? Doctor ID, which is a primary key. So when you're using this method, also you still underline. So you underline. The next attribute is what? G name. The next is what? Path ID. Good. Now, but you realize something, that path ID here is what? Is the primary key of the table patient. It simply means that this attribute here is a foreign key. So seeing this attribute is a foreign key, generally we use hashtag beside to represent that it is a foreign key. So take note of that. Good. Now, after doing that, don't close yet. You go to the table patient first. The table patient, you have what? You have path ID, so you underline comma. You have path name, like saying patient name. You underline. You have path GOB, so patient date of birth, and you have path what? Illness. Okay, the patient illness. Okay. Now, there's something I want to show you. When you're using this representation. So I'm done. Let me just close both. If I need to add something, we just add it like that. Now, so what happens in general is when you see a one-to-many relationship, it simply means what? That on the side where you're having this n, the primary key here should be foreign on the other side. Take note of that. By the time you have one-to-many relationship between two tables, the side where you have the many, the primary key of this table should be foreign key on the other table. That is why you are seeing here, because this is even very easy because it's already there, you see. But in some ER diagram, it's not like that. So don't think that among the attributes of a table, you will see the foreign key directly. No. So this is just like an exception like that, you see. So like you can have another example where this part here is not existing. Take note of that. Like you just have something like this. Do you think you draw your table and you say like doctor, date of G name, doctor, ID, and you end there? No. You need to take into consideration the cardinalities, and it's exactly what I'm telling you. So when you have something like one to many, the side where you have many, take the primary key there and you put it as the foreign key on the other side. Good. Now, so this one thing. Now, another case is when you have something like one-to-one relationship. Good. So when you have something like this, make sure that when you are writing your relational representation, the primary key of this table here should be foreign key on this table. And also, the primary key of this table should be foreign on the other table. So in both directions. So here you become foreign here, and here you become also a foreign key here. Take note. So this is the second situation. Now the last situation. Let us go to the last situation. And it's very important. I'm explaining this because generally you'll be having relational representation and they ask you for the ER diagram. So this is how you interpret that. Generally you'll be having maybe the ER diagram and they ask for the relational representation. You must take note of this cardinality. Very important. Now the last situation is when you're having many on both sides. NN. Good. So when you have NN on both sides, generally what happens is a new table is created. And that new table is having a name in fact of the relationship. So the new table in this case will be called consult. Good. Now, and inside that new table, you will take the primary key of the table to the left and you put him here. You take the primary key also of the table to the right, you put it here. And both of these become the primary key of the new table that have been created. So take note of that. So we have three scenarios: one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. So when it's one-to-one, the primary key on one table becomes foreign in the other, and vice versa, and the primary in the other also becomes foreign in the other. So take note of this. Now 1 to n, the primary key on the side where you have n is the one becoming foreign to the table to the left having just one, and it's all. Now n to n, you are creating but a new table with the name of the relationship linking them, and the primary key in both of them become foreign here. Good. Now, when they become foreign in this new table, in fact, the combination of the two become the primary key of the table created. Because remember that a table must have what? A primary key. And now there are some cases where relationship also have attributes. So if you have that table, like June 25, yes, I've answered June 25. Everything is on the platform School for All. Good. So you realize that there are some relationship with attribute. Like you can see maybe the attribute date here. In this case, when you are creating a new table, you also add the attribute date directly under. So take note of that. So this is all what I wanted to mention concerning this. If you have a problem, a question about all what I've presented here, make sure you text in the comment section and I'll be happy to re-explain it to you because it's very, very important. So from this agenda, we are going back to our paper, and this will help us to answer all these questions. So I think it's preferable to stop this video and start a new video. So see you in the next video to start with this paper. Ciao. So don't forget to like the tutorial and leave a positive comment if you have enjoyed everything, of course.